we should really not answer directly a lot of the questions about Mortis.
So in this video we're going to be looking at the role the Wands play and what happens when they die. So the Wands of Mortis, the Mortis gods, what happened, what are the lasting effects for the galaxy upon their deaths. For those who don't know who the Wands are the three gods of the Force in the Star Wars universe, seen in Season 3 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. You've got the Father, the embodiment of balance, you've got the Son, the embodiment of the dark side, and you've got the Daughter, the embodiment of the light side. And essentially the Force works like a tapestry of threads going between every single living thing. Heart of the Jedi novel gives a bit of insight on this. A gridwork of uncountable fine threads linking, crossing, intertwining. The lines of energy bind all into a whole tapestry. And a place that's strong in the Force, like the Heart of the Jedi Nexus or the Mortis Nexus, for example, is just a place where those lines have many crossings. It's a convergence point, basically, of all these threads. And these threads exist both light and dark. And Mortis is a place where all the threads from every single living thing in the galaxy flows. And each respective side, both light and dark, and then the balance between them, is embodied by both the Son, the Daughter, and then the Father. And there's that link between the galaxy and Mortis, right? Because it's the same threads. So what happens on further down the thread has a knock-on effect, and what happens on Mortis has a direct cause and effect relationship with the galaxy, and what happens in the galaxy has a direct cause and effect relationship with what happens on Mortis.
Any conflict here could have dramatic repercussions for the universe at large.
You and the Naboo form a symbiont circle. What happens to one of you will affect the other. You must understand this.
That connection there, right, between the Wands and the energies of the galaxy. And the Father actually warns, it actually says in the episode gallery as well, that
As the balance in this world crumbles, so shall war escalate in your galaxy. As my son has descended into the dark side, so have the Sith gained strength.
So because of this link, the Sith gain strength when the Daughter dies and when the Son descends into the dark side.
All is lost. The balance has been broken.
So the Daughter's death breaks the balance, right? But why does that actually break the balance? Because we've still got the Jedi on the other side of the threads, keeping the balance in the galaxy. And if that's synonymous with Mortis, then what's the actual issue here? And to understand that, it's important to know the role the Wands play, what their purpose is, and what's at stake for if they die. And so the Daughter tells us straight up at the beginning of the episode when Kenobi says, "Who are you?"
And what exactly are you?
We are the ones who guard the power.
So the Wands guard the power. So you got all those threads going through Mortis, and then you've got the Wands guarding those threads, each to their respective side. But guarding it from what, right? Because for them to be guarding it, it must be under threat from something. And who else would they be guarding it from, other than the people on the other end of the strings? And the Father says later in the episode when Anakin asks, why did you bring me here?
Then why reveal yourselves to us?
There are some who would like to exploit our power. The Sith are but one.
And they're guarding it from the mortals, because the mortals are actually exploiting the power. Mortals are getting too powerful, which is the given reason why Anakin was brought to Mortis. Dark and light are getting too strong, too powerful for a sustainable balance. And that's not just shown with the Wands, right? That's actually mirrored in the galaxy itself. There's a massive imbalance. But that was the problem with the Wands in the first place, right? They were getting too powerful, so they had to withdraw to Mortis. And now the mortals are exploiting that same power, which is what the Father says to Anakin, right? So he establishes that the Wands are basically too powerful for the galaxy.
My children and I can manipulate the Force like no other. Therefore, it was necessary to withdraw from the temporal world and live here as anchorites.
Then he says it's only here that you can control them.
It is only here that I can control them.
And then Anakin's like, well, why are we here?
Then why reveal yourselves to us?
Then the Father establishes that he called Anakin there because the Sith are exploiting the power in the galaxy. So they're exploiting those threads on the other side, they're getting too powerful.
There are some who would like to exploit our power. The Sith are but one.
Then he links it back into the same core problem in this whole thing, which is too much power.
Too much dark or light would be the undoing of life as you understand it. When news reached me that the Chosen One had been found, I needed to see for myself.
The Wands were too powerful, so they had to withdraw from the galaxy. But now the mortals are getting too powerful. And it's only on Mortis that the Father can control the Wands, so he calls the Chosen One. And of course, that's what's in the prophecy, the Chosen One to destroy the Sith. So the key point here is that the Wands guard the power. So their purpose, right, is to embody the Force on the conduit, which is Mortis. Embody the Force there to guard its balance. Clone Wars Comic UK 6.17 talks about this. So by guarding the balance, right, they're keeping everyone else below a set power level. A reasonable power level sufficient to maintain balance. You'll notice there's still descent there for the Son. he can still descend further into the dark side. The ones can still grow in power.
You are growing stronger, my son.
Am I, Father?
You have done what is forbidden. You've chosen the dark side and allowed it to feed your anger and desire for power.
You know, above that healthy balance threshold. And that's when balance starts to break, right? But at the end of the day, when the ones are alive, you've still got the ones there, you know, trying to keep that balance. Still guarding that power. And so there's still descent there, right, for the sun.
As my son has descended into the dark side.
And so when the sun dies, when the ones die, no one is then guarding the power. There's no one guarding the power. So it's completely up to, for example, the Sith to make that descent past levels where it was previously not possible because the sun was guarding the power. But now Sidious can descend as much as he wants. Now Sidious can get as much dark side power as he wants with no restraint on it. So now Sidious guards the power, and Sidious doesn't have any good intentions towards balance whatsoever, but the ones, even the sun, did. And of course with the ones alive it was all kept in check, with a fragile balance.
The father keeps a fragile balance between his daughter, who allies with the light side, and the son, who drifts ever closer to the dark.
You know, if something went out of whack, it wasn't the end of the world because, you know, you always had the ones alive whose intentions are to keep balance. It wasn't fully down to the people of the galaxy, to the mortals, to mould and shape those threads to do whatever the hell they want with that power. But now those limitations are lifted, so you start to see people get dramatically more powerful. There's a lot more energy, more abundant, more free to use in the galaxy now. No one's there to
Guard the power.
So the mortals are free to
Exploit our power.
So essentially, after the ones die, levels of power that were previously impossible become possible, and the ones' roles are left to fill. And given that the mortals are already exploiting their power to begin with, even before their deaths, obviously because the father was growing old and weak, they're already entering that range of power. So they're already getting up there, so you can just imagine the lasting effects and consequences that has on the galaxy when the ones die. And I see people say a lot online that, oh, no one can be more powerful than the ones because they've got loads of quotes saying they're the most powerful beings ever, sort of thing. And yes, they do, but their death causes a shift in the power dynamic. And it's ingrained into the episodes that these mortals do in fact grow stronger than them. And what better way to up the stakes of these big bad guys by having them exploit the powers of the literal gods? And you know, it also explains how people like Dooku are even still like a threat to Anakin by the time of Revenge of the Sith. You know, if Anakin was an equal of the father back in season 3, and you know, he's doubled by Revenge of the Sith. Stuff like that just seems to make a lot more sense when you get down into the nitty gritty and start looking at these concepts embedded in the lore. And essentially it just makes the villains in Revenge of the Sith look even worse. All hell breaks loose. You know, power goes out of control, the balance of the galaxy is fucked. And then essentially it's all down to Anakin to fix that. Done a video on that, you can go and check that out. You can also check out my blog on the topic over the Tuspect Insight forums. But yeah, this is just one of many parts that I'm going to be doing on uncovering the Mortis trilogy, all the secrets there, all the mechanics, what's going on, all the concepts ingrained in it, because it never gets talked about, and no one really has a clue what they're talking about when it comes to talking about Mortis. Generally you'll find that YouTubers and people on this platform don't actually know much about anything really. And I know it's ironic because I'm on YouTube right now, but I'm from a different platform and I've come here to make these videos to spread them to YouTube because no one knows how any of this stuff works and none of this stuff is on YouTube. So, but here I am doing God's work, so pin a medal on me and stick around for the next video, which I think I'm probably going to do one about the living force next, about the mechanics of that. So yeah, in a bit.